Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's a busy one this week. We got beef, we got bad comebacks, we got Ben Shapiro, and it's Billboard Breakdown.
I don't remember.
This is one of those weeks where it almost feels like there's too much going on, or any number of bigger stories could have monopolized this week for better or worse. Hell, we didn't even get all of them that I thought we would. Hell, I've also gotten multiple people reaching out saying how much they were looking forward to me tearing into certain songs on this list, and I don't know, if I thought that there were some new observations that could be gleaned outside of a mess culminating for a lot of things I already knew, I might be more excited. Strap in, folks. I can't promise this will be that fun, but it's gonna be interesting at least. But you know what, for a nice change of pace, at least it's gonna start relatively well with the top 10 and our new debut at number 1, Hiss by Megan Thee Stallion. I'll talk a lot more about the song later on. It smashed through on tremendous sales and streaming. It actually saw a little bit of radio traction, but let's be real, it's not gonna last this high beyond this week. And that should not be a surprise. Diss tracks are rarely ever this big. I'm frankly shocked the radio's touching it at all. And quite frankly, the fact that she won on the commercial side, it's gonna matter a lot more to her opponents than anyone else. Now, I personally am not gonna complain that she pushed back Lovin' On Me by Jack Harlow back to number 2. He's gonna go back to number 1 probably next week as he dominates the radio and streaming is rock solid. But hey, I'm grateful for the small victories. Now, this elbows back Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift to number 3, where streaming is stable, but the radio is dumping the song, albeit slowly. The margin's gonna take a while to come down. And she did hold over Lose Control by Teddy Swims at number 4, though. That margin is tightening quick, he's got better streams, and the radio is throwing some real muscle behind him. The run is happening, and hell, it rolled over Greedy by Tate McRae at number 5, where it looks like she hit her radio peak, and streaming's now on the decline. Then we got I Remember Everything by Zach Bryan featuring Casey Musgraves at number 6. Again, I think this is playing the position game, as radio has never really taken to this, even as his streaming is incredibly stable, especially compared to Agora Hills by Doja Cat holding at number 7, as she continues to make steady radio gains to compensate for the streaming just not really being there. Then we got another new arrival to the top 10, this one much worse, Beautiful Things by Benson Boone at number 8. I mean, chalk this one up to really good sales and streaming. The radio is not on board yet. Let's hope to God the viral moment fades before that happens. Finally, we got 2 songs that are just switching places. Red Rum by 21 Savage at number 9, thanks to streaming, as the radio is not there, shocker. And Snooze by SZA at number 10, where both streaming and airplay is on a steady decline, as I've been calling for the past couple weeks. Now, this takes us neatly to our losers and dropouts, and there is a healthy spread in both. In the latter category, Olivia Rodrigo in particular took some hits, with both Get 'Em Back and Can't Catch Me Now falling out. Neither song just took off the way they really should have. But we also saw exits for Virginia Beach by Drake, Save Me the Trouble by Dan and Shay, El Amor de Su Vida by Grupo Frontera and Grupo Fern, and Según Quiem by Maluma and Karen Leone. Kind of a mixed bag here, let's be honest. Now, for the losers, well, again, kind of all over the place, but let's start off with the 21 Savage album bomb that is continuing to slowly fade out. Nana with Travis Scott and Metro Boomin at 56, Prove It with Summer Walker at 70, NHIE with Doja Cat at 71, All of Me at 72, Should've Worn a Bonnet with Brent Fayez at 76, and Sneaky at 95. Then we got No Caller ID by Megan Moroney lose pretty hard off the debut to 88, as well as 020299 by That Mexican OT losing all of his gains down to 93, and PESA Pluma didn't exactly have a good week here either, with Igual Kun Un Angel with Caliuchis down to 34, and Belakeo with Anita at 63. Outside of those, Northern Attitude by Noah Khan and Hosier slid down to 97. Strangers by Kenya Grace is losing traction at 55. Looks to be a similar case for Mitski with My Love, Mine All Mine at 52. First Person Shooter by Drake and J. Cole is making its exit, comfortably clinching its year-end list spot at 45. And I'm talking about the proper Billboard year-end Hot 100. And you probably say the same thing with Lil Boo Thing by Paul Russell at 38. Finally, FTCU by Nicki Minaj fell to 40. I don't know if it's tied into a certain other debut from her this week, but I don't think that helped. And Yes And by Ariana Grande fell out of the top 10 to 17. And you know what? Beyond my lukewarm reaction to that song, I'm not surprised that both radio and streaming have been kind of slow to take it on. There's just not that much there to it. But it takes us to a much, much smaller list of returns and gains. In the former group, we got Wildflowers and Wild Horses by Lainey Wilson back at 96. I wonder if that big Grammy win for her is going to give this some traction in the future. And for the latter group, Made For Me by Money Long is just charging up all categories to 28. I'm still not wild about the song, but it's clear it's going to be a thing. I suspect this is probably going to hit the top 20. And you know, I guess I should be thankful that the list of gains is small because we have a lot of new arrivals and I've got a lot to say, and these are all over the goddamn place, so let's start off easy with number 98, All I Need Is You by Chris Janson.
There's just one thing I can't lose. If you're by my side, I'm better than alright. Baby, all I need is you.
I made a joke the last time I covered Chris Janson here for his song Done, that even then I was surprised at his chart longevity. That was 4 years ago, and here we are with another single getting through from his album last year, and you know what, a lot like Done, there's not really a lot to say about it. It's certainly pleasant. Janson is smart enough to know how to pivot more towards neo-traditional tones that feel more organic for him across the board. I'm honestly not surprised he went in this direction. The strings are kind of nice, even if that electric guitar lead feels a bit flat, and while the lyrics are kind of generic and listing everything he wants before highlighting that all he needs is you, it's a breezy formula that works. Neither offensive nor all that memorable. It's fine, I guess. Number 92, La Intencion by Christian Nodal and Peso Pluma. I guess I shouldn't be that surprised that Christian Nodal is back charting and with Peso Pluma. I mentioned this back when I first covered him in 2021 for a more traditional drinking song where I didn't really have the vocabulary to fully describe that regional Mexican scene, but now I only somewhat do, and this makes plenty of sense. This is very much in that corridos tumbados lane with the farty horns and the jittery acoustics, with more panning than you would expect for some reason in the production, and I do like Nodal's impassioned singing a little bit more than Peso Pluma's nasal squawking, but then you translate the lyrics and realize this is a song where there was some girl who is cheating on her partner, and they're trying to entice her to leave him. I mean, it's not quite treat you better territory, but there is a sleaze to this I do not find remotely flattering. Far from the worst thing I've heard in this lane. The production's just kind of more strange than outright incompetent, but I'm not sure I've just got much incentive to revisit it. That's all. Number 89, Creek Will Rise by Connor Smith. Another week, another artist from Music Row I don't recognize who managed to play the TikTok game well enough in order to catch some success. So, enter Connor Smith. He went viral around 2021. That got him signed to Valerie, that's Thomas Rhett's label. His first EP dropped in early 2022, and this song dropped in late February 2023, and it's taken until he released his debut album this year to finally chart. And, oh boy, I think I like this more than I probably should. It reminds me of the bro country that actually bothered to have tempo and a bass groove, a lot less of it than you might remember, down to Connor Smith rapping on the verse, and the very rural party hookup where he's hoping the creek might flood in the rainstorm so he and this girl can actually hook up. Now that has the potential to be kind of sketchy if it wasn't for the fact that it's emphasized she's very into it, down to skinny dipping together and they don't have enough dry clothes afterwards, and hell, the fact that he even implies sex happens afterwards is further than a lot of bro country went in the early 2010s. What I think really makes the song work for me is the tempo and the live drums. It creates that slight edge of panic and getting caught in a storm. Not really danger, but more flavor to the track, and yeah, I think it's fun. I'm interested to hear more from this guy. Really good song. Check it out. Number 79, One Call by Rich Amiri.
You would take a shop and you took her to Chrome Palace. It only took me one car, got a dome at it.
So I've been aware of the hype for Rich Amiri for a while now. He's put out a couple albums. This song comes from his second project that dropped in 2023. I've seen influences being described from Future to Young Boy Never Broke Again to Lil Tecca, so I wasn't sure what we would get with this. And while I understand the hype, I just don't think I'm on board. For starters, the lead and bass and buzzed out rage synth swamp and clip a lot of the mix, where the majority of any melodies carried in Rich Amiri's vocals, which definitely remind me of an off-brand Future with a little bit more melodic presence, where you'd think there'd be more of an incentive for a stronger hook or better song structure, and there just really isn't. And of course, the content's nothing special. Brand name, flexing, pills, taking some girl from a dude because he can buy her more brand names, and then shooting up that guy's spot. The only two lines that really stood out to me are saying that he's got so much gold in his mouth that he hates his dentist. You would think that would be a person he would have to trust given all the work getting done in one's mouth, and then he calls the black girl he's with wet throat. What a charmer. Again, I have heard worse in this lane, especially with rage music, but that's a pretty low bar. Cannot say I care for this. Number 77, Home by Good Neighbours. Okay, I know I wasn't the only one to see this song and this new duo and have no clue who they were, so here's a bit of context. One of them is Ollie Fox. He's a pop singer-songwriter. He's had a minor run of singles in the UK the past 5 years. He supported Sigrid on tour. The other guy is Scott Varel, who previously had an even more abortive run under the name Quassa, and now they've come together for this one song, the only thing they've released as a duo thus far. And wow, it looks like that desire to cash in on early 2010s indie rock is back in force, although given how thoroughly commodified that sound has become, it's probably not a good thing that the first comparison that came to my mind was early Imagine Dragons, with the blocky percussion, the colorless guitars, the goopy synths, the whistle, and all the shouty, kind of off-kilter squawk of the vocals. If I didn't know better, I would say this is commercial core from unnamed session musicians, and I would ask what ad it's behind. It also reminds me of how a lot of these guys would write lyrics that would give you some romantic feeling until you gave them the second glance, like "Wrap my name across your mouth," or "You're the song on the radio I never play." If this love-struck feeling is supposed to make someone feel homesick, I don't think it's working. I honestly have no clue where the nostalgic momentum is to bring this back. I know that Noah Khan is doggedly trying to bring back pop folk, but this was the goopy follow-through that was rarely any good, I'm not sure anyone still likes, and this, it's really bad. Let's hope it gets forgotten quickly. Number 74, Praise Ya in the Moonlight by YG Marley. If you looked at this guy's name and thought, I wonder if he's connected to Bob Marley in some way, well, yeah, you're correct. This is his grandson. And what you might not know is that his mother is Lauryn Hill. That is one hell of a musical pedigree, and not only did Lauryn Hill co-write and co-produce this song, it literally samples an old Bob Marley song. The legacy is already doing a lot of heavy lifting here. And okay, look, I think I'm the wrong person to judge this. I don't tend to like a lot of reggae, and I don't think this is changing my mind. The groove feels very lumbering and humid. The vocal mixing, it feels more synthetic than it probably should in both YG Marley's lead and the harmonies. And I'm not convinced YG Marley has anything close to his grandfather's charisma, from his very mushy delivery to the writing that seems to be focusing on some girl who left him behind, that he wants her to come back and then give praise to the Almighty. At least that's before the second half of the second verse wanders in to point fingers at those attempting to control your soul. I mean, his way through God to win power, I'm assured that's better. Maybe if I was more connected to Bob Marley's legacy, or I actually smoked pot, I might get more out of this. As it is, it's hard to escape the feeling it's coasting more on name recognition, and honestly, it's not doing much more. Can't say I'm a fan. Number 37, Think You the Shit, Fart by Ice Spice.
I be going hard, I'm breaking their hearts, like bitches be quick, but I'm quicker. Bitches be thick, but I'm thicker. She could be rich, but I'm richer.
I mean, when you give me that title, which sets up every single music critic for the obvious lyrical breakdown, y'all do know she's trolling, right? That your scandalized reaction's doing her marketing for her? Well, anyway, apparently this is intended as a loose diss track towards Lotto, incorporating an old Mario meme into, well, Ice Spice's usual formula, flexing, sex, and stacking cash. What might be more surprising is that I kinda like it. Ice Spice sounds a little bit more like she cares, debatable whether it works, she really cannot sell intensity, and while it feels like she may have simplified her flow to do so, the bars at least somewhat connect playing to her formula, and her comedic timing isn't terrible. But more to the point, I actually really like the production. Yeah, the gurgling synth doesn't have much to it, but it is mostly catchy, and that bass kick has real power without swamping the mix. It's probably one of the best non-drill grooves when the trap percussion comes in that she's had. And look, I know a version of me would have hated this a decade ago. I'd like to think I've grown a bit. It's way too stupid for me to hate. There's craftsmanship that I don't think is going to be given credit. You know what? Yeah, I'd like this. I'll stick up for this one. Number 24, Spin You Around 124 by Morgan Wallen.
Love like mine, my wind up and steal a couple kisses. Get your digits if I can find a right line.
Okay, a bit of context with this. On one of Morgan Wallen's original EPs back in 2015, he cut this song back when he was trying to chase a lot of bro country, and it was pretty mediocre at best. The overblown production picks up an odd sourness alongside Wallen's minor key vocal line. The mixing, especially those drum machines, was really rough, and Wallen is still very much an amateur as a performer back then. Fast forward to now, where his old label connections really want to capitalize on Morgan Wallen's popularity, and since he really wasn't getting paid for that EP, he put together an acoustic re-recording of the song. And look, he is a better singer now, even if the vocals are a bit more touched up than they probably should have been here. Odd choice by Joey Moy on production, but the guitars are warmer and the spare approach allows Wallen to tap into the wistful loneliness that the original didn't really showcase. And honestly, it's not bad for it. Kind of makes me wonder what it'll be like when Taylor Swift finally re-records her self-titled debut, and whether she might take any chances with the arrangements rather than play them so close. Whether there is a chance for any of that small recontextualization. But you know what, that's more of a passing thought, coming around a song that otherwise does not have much to it, one way or the other. Take it or leave it. Number 23, Bigfoot by Nicki Minaj.
Megan raw. If you a ghost by the party in Megan jaw. Shot stone, but I still ain't let Megan soar. Bad bitch, she like 6 foot. I call her Bigfoot. The bitch fell off. I said, get up on your good foot.
I honestly don't know why I expected better. Feels like ever since I started trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, the material's been haphazard at best and sadly a way too predictable disaster at worst. And at this point, even giving her the benefit of this is her charged up, I'm sure back to back is right around the corner. It's been over a week. It hasn't happened despite her saying she had all these songs in the tuck, and Megan hasn't needed to shoot back. When your enemy is destroying herself, why would you interfere? Now, I feel like I've got to give some volume to the actual defenses made of the song from the Barbs or Joe Budden, the big one being that Nicki Minaj had a far better beat prepared for this and had to switch it out at the last minute when she couldn't get it cleared. And even if I will agree the other beat is better, I'm sorry. If you're preparing for war, you get your arsenal in order ahead of time. I don't think that's an excuse. But I gotta wonder why Nicki Minaj would even shoot back in the first place. You heard the Megan's Law line, and that is what set you off, only drawing more attention to its context in the sub? Why expose so much of this song on Twitter and your live streams rather than concentrate your impact? Keep it all surprise. And more importantly, why does this sound like total shit? I was willing to give the production a little bit of grace with the oily synth and the percussion switch-ups, but Nicki switches across so many voices and messy flows that she can't build any momentum. I feel like I can hear every single vocal punch-in when she adds a new line. And that's before that disastrous faux ASMR outro, where she's trying to sound threatening and she fails utterly. And then you realize that the disses are just weak. I can't in good conscience be annoyed and say that they're in bad taste if I want to defend Pusha T's The Story of Adidon. But that song wasn't just coherent in its nastiness, there was layers and thematic structure and focus, whereas Nicki's barbs are that Megan sleeps around, drinks a lot, And Megan's preemptively admitted that, so it doesn't land even beyond the slut-shaming, and that Meg was apparently lying on her dead mom, which doesn't make sense because it's not like Hiss was some elaborate diss thrown at Nicki beyond that one line. So where are the lies again? Oh, and apparently Nicki also tries to play around with the event where Tory Lanez shot Meg the Stallion in 2020, but why emphasize that she has big feet at all if you're then going to try to deny the shooting happened? And more importantly, if you want to dunk on Tory Lanez in the song as one of the guys that Meg was reported with, why take his side? What I later found a lot more revealing is when Nicki went on to Joe Budden's Twitter space to then rant about, thanks to Tory Lanez shooting her, Meg got her Rihanna moment. Which to me says a lot about how little respect Nicki has for Rihanna, and by extension Jay-Z, although we know the beef with Roc Nation's been there for a while. Certainly a fight to pick, but to me it just stinks of jealousy and raging insecurity that Meg got a sympathetic moment that Nicki didn't, when I'm almost positive Nicki herself may have had some level of trauma the past 15 years that was never taken seriously. In fact, I know that's true because Nicki has brought it up on those more serious deep cuts that nobody talks about. And that's kind of what makes this so goddamn sad on multiple levels. Yeah, of course the song is atrocious and bitter and really incoherent, where I've seen more than a few barbs say, yeah, this ain't it, or start asking who is around Nicki helping her, or even if she might need rehab. And that's not even including how hard it is to root for someone who didn't just lose when you know they've got the potential to do so much better, but is imploding in catastrophic fashion. I mean, she's setting herself against the industry, but her bigger enemy's herself. And even if this is just for the barbs, or that she's trolling from people to get a reaction, I'm not sure the reaction she wanted was embarrassment or pity. I mean, just like Bigfoot, I think it's better for the legend overall. Nobody sees or hears it. Number 19, Selfish by Justin Timberlake.
I can't help it. I want every bit of you. I guess I'm selfish.
Okay, now into something that's way easier to handle. Oh, Justin Timberlake's trying to launch another comeback, and it seems like in the aftermath of everything with Britney Spears, folks are a lot less enthused. Hell, I originally thought that my video essay exploring the 2020 experience and the intersection point of class and cool, that it might be going too hard on Timberlake. I was not prepared for how well it would age, and then leave me thinking that I probably didn't go hard enough. But hey, there's a new song, and oh boy, this is not good. I mean, I know some people have made the late period Robin Thicke comparison, but to me this reminds me of the stiff and painfully dated late 2010s trap pop that sounds alarmingly cheap for Timberlake standards. At least when he's worked with Timbaland in the past, there was texture and unique groove. What Louis Bell and Circuit are giving him is this drippy synth, the leaden bass, and fizzy percussion that even for a ballad feels limp and small. All of which highlights that without his swagger or his intensity, Timberlake's kind of a non-presence here, and that's a problem when you look at the lyrics, which is basically trying to be Nick Jonas's jealous and how much he likes this girl, except with a splash of mirrors because he wants to put her in a frame, and that's not even getting to the whole implication that his concern trolling might not be for a current partner, but possibly an ex. Charming. I mean, I guess that's where the Robin Thicke comparison might make sense, given how lightly pathetic all of this is. But as someone who will occasionally defend parts of Man of the Woods, this is gutless and bland. The last thing Timberlake needed for his big comeback. Lousy song, and unfortunately, it takes us to number 16, Facts by Tom MacDonald and Ben Shapiro.
You can cry and you can scream, you can riot in the streets, you defunded the police, now there's no one to protect you.
You know it's a bad thing when Nicki Minaj might co-sign this song, and the co-sign might make everyone look worse. But at this point, I've said my piece on Tom MacDonald's long-running and increasingly tedious grift, and adding Ben Shapiro to the pile certainly doesn't make it interesting. I'm certainly not scandalized by it. I mean, you could focus on the hypocrisy, given that Shapiro doesn't think rap is real music, but doing that is playing his game, and frankly giving this a lot more dignity in the argument than it deserves. In the same way that pointing out that despite the hook running on the whole line, facts don't care about your feelings, the second line of the song, there being only two genders, that's not factual by scientific consensus across the board. Or that Tom MacDonald called himself the biggest independent rapper across the board. That got a big laugh from me. Oh, yeah, sure, buddy. But at this point, Tom MacDonald's just repeating buzzwords and a mix of bad arguments and outright lies. If the police actually were defunded, somebody should really tell, I don't know, Joe Biden that. I think it would be very big news to him and his entire policy platform. Then Tom MacDonald thinks we're all so triggered and are so mad about this, and no, Tommy boy, you've been repeating the same shit for years. It's not new or interesting. It's not even that funny, I'm just laughing at you. But what is funny to me is I think Ben Shapiro actually gives the game away, because he can't hide his contempt for hip-hop culture, especially flexing. In other words, he's attempting to do something that Lil Dicky already parodied, or that the Lonely Island did with YOLO and Kendrick Lamar 11 years ago, and the rest of his verse is playing into memes about himself, calling Lizzo fat, giving Nicki Minaj a shout-out, and cussing out the woke Karens in his comment section. And beyond the bargain barrel misogyny, I find that interesting because Karen is usually derogatory for white women, and they probably make up a significant chunk of his and his sister's audience. But again, he clearly doesn't care about something that he does not respect as art. Not that this is worth much respect, given the production's a Trap NF knockoff, and Tom MacDonald cannot sell anything with melody, even if he adds autotune. There's no intensity to that hook, and Shapiro's verse sounds like it was recorded in a different studio with much worse equipment. Kind of weird there. But this is all intended to trend and cause controversy, and Shapiro is very obviously using Tom MacDonald to do it. And MacDonald is willing to get used because he hasn't hit the Hot 100 in about 3 years. But you know what? There is a template to baiting liberals to all sorts of outrage. I get what they're trying to do, but I think what's very revealing is that it didn't really work. Unlike what Shapiro said to end his verse, this isn't going to come close to the number one. You want to know what did? Number one, Hiss by Megan Thee Stallion.
Might get managed by Chris Jenner next. He can't move on, can't let it go. He hook nose full of that Tina Snow. And since niggas need making help to make money, bitch, come be my hoe.
You know, even though it's not gonna last at number one, I am happy that Meg got here this way. Cobra primed the pump and honestly should have done way better. And Hiss is a wallop, even outside of the line that sent Nicki into her downward spiral. Now, I have critiques of the song. I think the intro could have been tightened up a little bit. It feels like a mistake that without a proper hook, it could have given this some real staying power, or maybe even radio play. And as much as I like that darker piano around the rumbling percussion, it's actually really well mixed too. One more change-up probably could have knocked this out of the park. And let's be candid, this is far from the first time where Megan Thee Stallion has aired out a lot of internet gossip and other rappers trying to make her life miserable for bullshit reasons. This might have had a better shot putting it all to rest, but a song this big, it's frankly giving some folks a lot more attention than they deserve. And it seems like Drake is the only one who's smart enough to stay quiet given the allegations around him. Outside of that, yeah, of course it really goes off. Meg hops across flows effortlessly. The quotable lines pop off the page. She sells it with a lot of righteous fury. And she managed to preemptively flip one of the bigger shots Nicki took at her and how she sleeps around. Meg admits it, and not only does she admit the buzz helps her, but the fact that she does not name names of her exploits while they get in their feelings about her, it shows her power, not theirs. Her sex positivity is an asset, not how Nicki is framing it as a liability. And once she mops up the Tory stands who have made her life miserable, and also seem a lot more invested in hating her than propping up his music while behind bars, and she knows that, it's hard not to feel like she just cleared the table for whatever crossover hit it's on its way next. This is a great, bruising song, where even if it doesn't last, it was a moment. And a pretty great one. And it's also one I'm going to chronicle by easily giving it the best of the week. With Connor Smith getting the honorable mention for Creek Will Rise, that was a really pleasant surprise. I didn't expect it. Ice Spice was close here. Worst of the week, Bigfoot by Nicki Minaj and Facts by Tom MacDonald and Ben Shapiro. They're time because really, what else was I gonna do? With dishonorable mention going to Home by Good Neighbours, because my god, that was a really unpleasant surprise. Let's not make that a thing. Next week though, the fallout from all this. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next week.